everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Trey Flowers' contract for the Detroit Lions and some options that they have this offseason to potentially save money for the future, but also maybe for now. So let's get it started.
I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome everybody to the video. Glad you guys are here. And today we're back to talk about some Trey Flowers. Now, recently we did a video on Jared Goff. We looked at his contract and it kind of broke down what it would mean for the Lions to restructure a guy like Jared Goff, which would put some basically guaranteed money towards the end of the contract, 2023, 2024, where he didn't have guaranteed money before, but it would save you potentially up to $20 million this offseason. And we know because of COVID and since the salary cap is expected to be much lower, it could make sense for a team to restructure. So yes, it doesn't give you a very as clean of an out before as there was with Jared Goff. You can go check out that video if you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're stuck with him, but there is some guaranteed money. And I thought today we'd talk about Trey Flowers because there's a lot of options with Trey Flowers depending on how the Lions feel about Trey Flowers. Now, I don't know exactly how they're going to feel about Flowers. All we know is what Aaron Glenn said. He basically praised his versatility, the fact that you could try to bump him all over the defensive line. You could put him at a 3 technique. You could put him on the outside. You can let him get after the quarterback. You can move around Trey Flowers. So the versatility is great. We know off the field Trey Flowers has been really good. He was a Walter Payton Award nominee, so that's awesome. You know how he is off the field. And statistically last season, unfortunately, he had a fractured forearm, which caused him to miss a little over half of the season, so he didn't get to play the full year. His stats really dropped, but in 2019, he put up some really, really good numbers. He still graded out well in PFF last season, and the year before even better. Not to say that he's lived up to the $90 million contract that he has gotten, but he has put up some solid numbers. For example, last season, he was 9th. He was ranked 9th, according to PFF, overall, with all edge rushers. And he only played in, 7 games, and he only had 2 sacks. But yeah, he's still ranked 9th in PFF and 14th against the run. He wasn't, tremendous as a pass rusher last season, but his role changed a little bit with Corey Allen's defense. He was used in a lot more different ways. We saw him dropping a lot more than maybe before. We saw him bouncing around the defensive line a lot more. It was definitely a different attack, and some people say that that was a big issue. Proud Detroit gave him an A grade in 2019, saying that most of the time he looked like a half-possessed defensive end out there. But you also notice 2019, he played a lot at the right defensive end position, but notice that in the past, and now hopefully because maybe we'll have some more depth at defensive end, those guys seem to rotate with each other, Romeo Okwara and Trey Flowers. Instead of both being on the field at the same times, you saw a lot of times in the past where they would rotate in with one another instead of both being on the field. So maybe in this future scheme, they're both on the field at the same time. Look, Trey Flowers is a heck of a player, but 2020 definitely took a little bit of a step back. Maybe that was because they didn't just simply use him as a right defensive end as much as in 2020, they tried to move him all over the field. And we know the versatility is there, but it seemed like his production started to lack a little bit. But we know in 2019, he put over 30 pressures. He had 7.5 sacks, I believe it was. He was 18 before he signed that big deal with the Lions. He put up some good numbers as well. He's basically averaging 7 sacks a year. So while he's not one of the best pass rushers in the league, he still can do a lot for you in terms of being a really good run stopper and a good pass rusher. Not to say that he's lived up to the $90 million, but he is still a good player when he's on the field. Aaron Glenn did tell us that they would study up on his film to figure out where they could get the best out of him. So hopefully that is the case in 2021 and beyond, and we're able to get that higher level of play. Maybe we get the best we've ever seen out of Trey Flowers, or at least get back to maybe some of that 2019 production and maybe even more. So with the way that his contract is set up, maybe not super likely that he's moved on from this offseason, but the future, there also is some options. Plus, this season, if they wanted to, there are some options to save money and potentially, lose some money, but save money for the future. I'm going to go through the options. Let's start off with restructuring Trey Flowers' contract first, kind of like we talked about with Jared Goff. So let's talk about it. So right now, Trey Flowers' contract looks like this. Okay, this is not the restructure. This is what his contract looks like. For 2021, he has nearly a $20 million cap hit. In 2022, it's $23 million on his cap number. And 2023, it's $23.6 million on his cap number. Now, one big difference between Trey Flowers and Jared Goff is that there is some guaranteed money throughout the rest of his contract, which goes through 2023, not 2024, but through 2023. There is some guaranteed money throughout the contract. Not a ton, but there is some. That's the difference because Jared Goff didn't have that guaranteed money in 2023 and 2024. It's a little bit different. And that's not just a roster bonus. That's just he has some guaranteed money there. It means that for 2021, his dead cap, if you cut him, would be $26 million. That's kind of why it's not look like he's going anywhere this offseason. Next season, it'd be $11.2 million, and the year after that, it'd be $5.6 million. So if the Lions want to do it then, they potentially could. But let's talk about what it would mean if the Lions restructured a guy like Trey Flowers. So we're we're going to do that. We're going to restructure Trey Flowers. Now, we're going to do the highest amount we possibly can here, which would save the Lions about $9 million this offseason. So the Lions want to restructure Trey Flowers. Basically, restructuring, we've talked about it, right? It takes money from that base salary, turns it into basically a signing bonus, gives the player that up front, so they love it because they get all this money in cash. But on the cap, it spreads it out through the rest of the years as a bonus. So there is guaranteed money that's spread out, but it saves you money for this season. And again, because of COVID, we're hoping that when the salary cap number goes back up, that it doesn't hurt teams as bad. So that's what a restructure basically is. So if the Lions wanted to restructure Trey Flowers, they could save $9 million this offseason. It definitely means that he's not going anywhere because you would have $40 million in dead money if you decided to move on. But yeah, you would save $9 million, which would put the Lions close, as of right now, to about even in terms of being over the cap. Then next season, your dead money would go up to $20 million if you decide to move on. And the year after that, $10 million. Lions restructured him. It'd be about $40 million to get dead cap this year compared to $26 million without the restructure. But either way, it's still a lot. You're probably not moving him anyways. The next year, without a restructure, it's $11 million. But with the restructure, it's $20 million. Next season, they're kind of locked into Trey Flowers. Not like it was going to be an easy out because there was still $11 million in dead cap after in 2022 anyways. But it's definitely more, so you're really locked into it. And then in 2023, it would be a dead cap of $10 million compared to 5.6. So it's still not a great out. You're potentially locking him up for the next 3 seasons. That's one of the biggest differences between Goff and Flowers in terms of restructuring is that if you restructure Flowers, there's already some guaranteed money throughout his deal. Jared Goff doesn't have that in the last 2 years. Talk about the next option, which would be cutting him. Now, while cutting him doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, right? Why would you cut him? I mean, you wouldn't think you would cut this guy, not only because you're losing a good player, but also cutting him would mean that you would have a dead cap this season of $26 million, which is a tough pill to swallow. Plus, it means you're losing $6.8 million this season. So basically, if you cut Trey Flowers this offseason, a normal cut, you are losing nearly $7 million. However, for 2022, it does raise the salary cap up pretty high. If you cut him, you would save $23 million in 2022 and the same in 2023. So yeah, you're saving a lot of money for the next couple years, but this year you're losing about $7 million, which means you're about $16 million over the cap as of where it's at right now, which is kind of a big issue because you already have money issues. So that'd be a problem. But that does throw you to this idea. What about a June 1st cut? What if the Lions wanted to do a June 1st cut? Now, this one may be more realistic. If the Lions didn't feel like Flowers was a fit and they wanted to say, hey, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just get it done with. Let's cut him. Let's just go a different direction. We just want to get him off the books. A June 1st cut may be their best bet because, again, they already have some guaranteed money there. But just regularly cutting him, which is going to lose you about $8 million, which means you're about $16 million over the cap of where it sets right now, would be a very big issue because you're trying to save money anyway. So you'd be in a really tough spot. However, a June 1st cut, on the other hand, would save you a little over $4 million in cap, $4.3 million in cap this season. So you still save a little money. Not a lot, but you do save a little bit. And then in the future years, yes, you would save a little bit. Next year, you'd save 12. And the year after that, you'd save $23 million. Realistically, when to try to cut him, a June 1st cut might be your best bet. You're not saving as much next season. You're only saving 12 compared to the 23, but you would be saving a little bit this year as well, which would help you out. And then in 2023, of course, you're still saving that $23 million as of how it's set up right now. So cutting him, I don't think is very realistic, but if you were going to do it, June 1st probably be the best way to do it. Now, you only can do 2 of those per offseason, okay? You only can have 2 of those cuts. We've talked about Justin Coleman. Jesse James could be in line for those this offseason. We could see it because it could bump Justin Coleman up to save about $9 million. It could bump Jesse James to save about $5 million this offseason. Now, the final option you would have is trading Trey Flowers. Now, obviously, the issue with this is it takes 2 teams to trade. You got to find a team that's willing to trade for Trey Flowers. And the issue with that is whoever's trading for him is taking on a lot of money. So they would have to be willing to take on a lot of money in Trey Flowers' contract. Not saying you can do it, but if you wanted to, a normal trade, not a June 1st trade, but a normal trade for Trey Flowers would mean that you would save about $3 million this season, as well as, the 23 for the upcoming 2 seasons. So you wouldn't save a lot this year. In 2022, you would be saving a lot. In 2023, you'd be saving a lot. So you could also be getting a pick and return. You wouldn't save really much this season, so it really wouldn't help you this year because you're losing a player and you're barely saving any money. But you do move on. You could potentially get a pick return it for the upcoming seasons when you're, if you're looking for like a retool or rebuild here, then it could save you a lot of money. In 22, the Lions decided, okay, we had Trey Flowers for a year. Now we want to cut Trey Flowers. They could be looking at saving $12 million next offseason, taking on $11 million dead cap hit. So you're not saving as much as you would want, but you still are saving $12 million. If they cut him in 2023, you're saving $18 million and still taking on a $5.6 million dead cap. So either way, you still have some guaranteed money spread throughout the contract right now. The reason restructuring could make sense for the Lions is because they could be looking at this and saying, well, we have this guaranteed money regardless. We're looking to keep him for 3 years as he's only 27 years old. I don't know if they are or not, but if they're looking to, then they could potentially look to do a restructure because it saves them $9 million for this season. They already have the idea of keeping him for the next 3 years anyway. Potentially look to restructure his contract because either way, there's going to be guaranteed money if you want an out. Now, the guaranteed money definitely goes up. Okay, you're definitely not saving as much money if you try to cut him down the road, if you try to restructure his contract. So the Lions could look to restructure him if they have the idea of we're going to keep him. Kind of the same thing that's going on right now with the whole Jared Goff idea of restructuring him. The difference is there's guaranteed money regardless with Trey Flowers. With Jared Goff, there isn't. And I don't know how the Lions feel necessarily about Trey Flowers for the future. Probably going to happen is unless they get a really nice trade offer, it's likely the Lions just keep him on the roster for 2021. And then in 2022, 2023, they could decide whether or not they want to cut him, try to save some money, whether or not they want to go a different route. But if they look at a 27-year-old, say, hey, we're probably going to keep him for the next 3 years anyways, he could save us $9 million this season, that towards Galladay, whatever it may be, and we're going to keep him anyways, then it's not really a big deal, okay? But if you're not sure if you want to keep him or cut him, then kind of like Jared Goff, it doesn't really make sense to do this. Again, I'm not really pushing for either or here, but I did want to kind of break it down. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.